The text arrived at 8:47 in the morning. I was already in my car. I had been driving for 20 minutes, through the Tuesday morning traffic on the interstate, past the exit I would normally take for work, toward the hospital on the north side of the city, where my father had been a patient for 3 months. My phone lit up on the passenger seat. I reached a red light. I picked it up. My brother's name. One message. Don't come to the hospital. You're not needed here. I sat at the red light and read it twice. The light turned green. I kept driving. The hospital's main entrance had a long circular drive that I navigated into the parking structure and found a space on the second level. I took the elevator to the lobby. I walked to the information desk, gave my name, said I was there to see my father in the cardiac unit. The woman at the desk looked at her screen. Room 412, she said. But actually, could you wait just one moment? I'm going to let the attending know you're here. I said, of course. I stood near the desk. 3 minutes later, the door to the clinical corridor opened. A doctor stepped through, a woman in her 40s in scrubs, with the specific quality of focus that doctors have when they are about to have a conversation they have been preparing for. She looked around the lobby. She said my name. I raised my hand. She walked toward me and said she was glad I had come in. Then she led me through the door. My brother David was in the hallway outside room 412. He was leaning against the wall with his phone in his hand, and the particular posture of someone who has been in a hospital corridor long enough that standing upright has stopped being the default. When he heard footsteps, he looked up. He saw me. His face went white. Not the gradual blanching of surprise, the immediate, complete draining of color that happens when the body registers something it was not prepared for. He looked at the doctor.
He looked at me.
He looked at the doctor again. "How did you know?" he said. It was barely a whisper. I looked at him for a moment. Then I turned to the doctor. "What's happened?" I said. "How is my father?" What she told me next made my entire body go cold. Before I tell you what she said, please take a second to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments what country you are watching from. Now, let's begin. My name is Rachel Coleman. I am 34 years old. And I want to tell you about my father before I tell you the rest of the story. James Coleman was 71 years old, a retired high school history teacher who had spent 32 years in the same classroom and who had, in that time, developed the particular combination of patience and directness that either makes people excellent teachers or excellent parents, and in his case had made him both. He called me every Sunday. Without exception, without reminder. At 10 o'clock on Sunday mornings he called, and we talked for however long the conversation wanted to go. About books, about history, about what I was working on and what he was reading and the particular opinions he had about current events that were always more nuanced than they sounded in the first sentence. After my mother passed away 4 years ago, the Sunday calls became the anchor of my week in a way I did not fully understand until I tried to imagine them not happening. My brother David is 4 years older than me. He lives 15 minutes from my father's house. He had always been, in the family's understanding of itself, the practical one, the one who handled logistics, who showed up when things needed to be handled, who maintained a kind of calm authority over family matters that I had spent most of my life accepting as the appropriate order of things. I did not question David. In retrospect, I had not questioned David nearly enough. 3 months before the Tuesday morning in the parking structure, my father had been admitted to Meridian Hospital following what David described to me as a minor cardiac event. He called me the evening it happened. He was measured and calm. David is always measured and calm. And he said the words that most effectively neutralized my concern. Minor, precautionary, doing well, nothing serious. I asked if I should come. He said Dad was resting and not up for visitors just yet. He said he would keep me posted. He kept me posted in the way that people keep others posted when they are controlling the information flow, brief updates that conveyed stability, without detail. Dad had a good day today. Doctors seem pleased. Resting well. The kind of messages that answer no actual questions but satisfy the instinct to ask them because they contain the right keywords. Good, pleased, well. I called the hospital once in the second week. I was told that patient information could only be shared with authorized family members and that I should check with the primary contact on file. I called David. He said Dad was resting, and he would call me when there was anything to report. I did not push. That is the part of the story I carry most heavily. I did not push. I was 4 hours away by car. I had a job and a life and the specific trust of a younger sibling who has spent their whole life deferring to the organizational authority of the older one. I told myself that David was there, that he was managing things, that if the situation were serious, he would say so. Week 5. Seems like they may keep him a bit longer for observation. Nothing alarming. Week 8. Dad asked about you. I told him you've been busy. He said to tell you hello. I read that message standing in my kitchen on a Thursday evening and felt something that I could not immediately name. Not quite alarm. Something quieter and more unsettling. The first full presence of a question I had been half asking for weeks. Why is Dad sending messages through David? He had his phone. I knew he had his phone because he had sent me a text about a book I had recommended, one sentence, 2 months ago before the hospitalization. He knew how to use it. He had never, in our relationship, required an intermediary. I called his phone. It rang 4 times. Voicemail. I texted him, Dad, I want to come visit. Let me know when you're up for it. He did not respond. I told myself the medication made him tired. I told myself he was resting. I told myself the things that made the distance feel acceptable. 1 week before the Tuesday morning, I received a call from a number I did not recognize. It was a nurse at Meridian Hospital. She said she was calling because my father had been asking specifically to speak with me and that the nursing staff had located my number in the hospital's contact records. She said she wanted to make sure I was aware that he had been requesting contact. Asked how he was. She paused in the way that medical professionals pause when the answer is not simple and they are deciding how much they are authorized to say. I think it would be best, she said carefully, if you spoke with the attending physician directly. I said I would come in. She said she would let the attending know. I called the attending's office the next morning. A scheduler took my number and said the doctor would be in touch within 24 hours. I heard nothing that day. I called again the following morning. The scheduler said the doctor had been in surgery and would call when available. I drove the 4 hours on the Tuesday morning without waiting for the call. I was in my car, 20 minutes from the hospital, when the text from David arrived. Don't come to the hospital. You're not needed here. I sat at the red light and read it twice. Then I kept driving. The doctor's name was Sarah Weston. She was the attending physician overseeing my father's cardiac care, and she had been trying to reach me, not through messages left with the scheduler, as I had assumed, but through the hospital's formal notification system, which had encountered an error with the contact information on file. When the nurse had called me the week prior, she had flagged my father's chart. Dr. Weston had been informed I was coming in. She walked me into a consultation room, a small, clean space with a table and 4 chairs that hospitals keep for conversations that require more privacy than a hallway, and she sat across from me with a folder that she did not open immediately. She asked if I understood the nature of my father's condition. I told her what David had told me. A minor cardiac event, precautionary hospitalization, doing well. She was quiet for a moment. Then she told me the truth. My father's cardiac event had not been minor. He had experienced a significant myocardial infarction, a major heart attack, that had resulted in serious damage to his heart muscle. He had been in intensive cardiac care for the first 2 weeks. He had been moved to a step-down unit in week 3. He was now in a standard cardiac room, but his condition required ongoing management and a series of decisions about his longer-term care that were not simple. I listened to her describe the past 3 months of my father's medical situation, and I felt the specific cold of understanding that spreads through you when the gap between what you were told and what was true becomes visible. My brother told me it was minor, I said. Dr. Weston looked at me for a moment. I know, she said. Then she opened the folder. 6 weeks ago, my father had executed a new healthcare proxy document. The document named a single healthcare decision-maker, the person legally authorized to receive medical information and make decisions on his behalf if he was unable to do so himself.
He had named me.
He had removed David. The document was signed, witnessed, and on file with the hospital. Dr. Weston placed it on the table in front of me. Your father asked for this change to be made 6 weeks ago, she said. Which is why the hospital has been trying to reach you. A pause. There are several care decisions that have been pending because we needed to speak with the authorized person. I looked at the document. My father's signature. The date. 6 weeks ago, which was 5 weeks into a hospitalization that I had been told was minor. He's been asking for you, Dr. Weston said. Her voice was careful and even. The nursing staff has documented multiple requests over the past 3 weeks. He has asked for you by name. My entire body went cold. I stood in the doorway of room 412 for a moment before I went in. My father was awake. He was smaller than I remembered, not in any catastrophic way, but in the way that illness reduces a person, takes the extra from them, and leaves what is fundamental. He was looking at the window when I pushed the door open. When he turned and saw me, his face did something I am not able to describe in a way that does it justice. He said my name. I crossed the room and sat in the chair beside his bed and took his hand. I've been trying to reach you, he said. His voice was tired but clear. I know, I said. I'm here now. He held my hand, and we sat without speaking for a while. I did not ask him yet about the proxy change or the weeks of asking for me or any of the questions I would eventually ask and he would eventually answer. There was time for that. That morning, there was only the chair and his hand and the window and the relief of finally being in the right room. David was in the hallway when I came out. We had a conversation that was long and difficult and that I will not reproduce in full because some of what was said is still being worked through and some of it belongs to the two of us and to our father. What I will tell you is that David had known about the healthcare proxy change. He had been notified by the hospital. He had continued to engage with the medical team as if the change had not occurred, not through any formal deception, but through the specific omission of never informing them that he was no longer the authorized decision-maker. He had kept me away because of an old conflict he had never fully resolved, because of a belief, arrived at over years, that his management of family matters was the correct management and that my involvement would complicate things. Because of reasons that are human and complicated and that do not fully excuse what they produced. He did not say any of this in the hallway. He said very little. He looked at the floor and he said he had been handling things. I told him I knew. Then I went back to sit with our father. My father is home now. He is managing, which is the word that applies to a person with ongoing cardiac needs who is living his life, carefully with monitoring with the Sunday calls that continue because he continues to make them. He told me, several months after the Tuesday in March, what he had been going through during those weeks of asking for me. He told it simply and without drama, the way he tells everything. He said that what he had wanted was not rescue or intervention. He had wanted his daughter in the room. That is all. He had wanted his daughter in the room. And for 3 weeks he had asked for that, and the asking had not reached me. I tell this story not as an indictment of my brother, who is a complicated person doing his imperfect best in the way that most people are. I tell it because of something simpler. Your name on a document matters. When my father changed that healthcare proxy, he was not making an administrative decision. He was doing the only thing available to him, a man in a hospital bed with a phone that wasn't reaching his daughter, to make sure that what he wanted could not be completely managed away from him. He put my name on a form. The hospital followed the form. The doctor called my name. I walked through a door that someone had tried to keep closed, not because I knew what was behind it, but because a nurse had told me my father was asking for me, and I got in my car. Document your wishes. Name the people you trust. Make sure the right names are on the right forms. And when someone tells you not to come to the hospital, and you have any reason at all to believe that the person inside might want you there, drive anyway. The door will open.